This podcast we have Asta Shah, Dr. Asta Shah, who is a physiotherapist. Right. Okay, I get it confused. She is going to be talking to us about the non-financial reason why Indians, okay, and especially women, leave India. We're going to be talking about other things also about the female point of view in general and what women want. And I just did a video on what women want on Nilanam, so I'm going to be adding this to my research of the whole compilation. So let's go. Asta Shah, who are you? Start.
So I'm a physiotherapist, like you said. I qualified in India and I worked there for a bit, and then I decided to do my master's in the UK. So I studied for my post graduation here, and then I took up a job in the country. I'm currently working here.
All right. Okay. So can you walk us through the reason, the basic larger reasons why you left India? Then we'll get into the details.
So for me, I had a very personal reason. It's just that I wanted to give my life a new direction. And after completing my graduation, I was very comfortable in my job. I was very happy there as a physiotherapist, learning under very experienced professionals from my field. But then I realized that I was getting very stagnant, and I wanted to like get away from the monotony of the everyday life. And I thought it'll also be like a different exposure to me personally, other than the professional qualifications that I would earn with a degree from abroad. Those were the main
Right.
sort of reasons why I decided to do it.
Okay. So what personally speaking, what difference did it make to you?
Personally, it made more difference than it did professionally because it sort of matures you in a whole different way because you're changing the course of your life. all
Mhm.
all my adult life till like I was 24, I was living with family under their protection. I never had to be in a situation where I was solely responsible for myself.
Right.
So that, I wouldn't say it hampered my growth, but it sort of made me very passive. But when I decided to live by myself, taking decisions for myself, that made me a lot more responsible. So it's like being thrown in the deep end of a pool where you're on your own. You struggle initially, but then you come out of it. You learn to survive, to swim, and just find your way in the world. So
Okay. So would you call your family traditional?
they're not typically traditional, as compared to the rest of um,
Okay.
general Indian families that we know of.
Right.
They're broad-minded that way. Um, yeah.
Okay. But would you say you felt stifled after one? Did you always feel stifled, or was there? Firstly, did you feel stifled? And at that, after that, was it like when you look back, did you always feel stifled, or was it like a kind of a freedom, afterwards, when you left?
Stifled is too harsh a word, but
Okay.
yes, I felt like I could have explored more of life had I not been under the watchful eye of my family. And they've always meant the best, of course. So it's
Mhm.
never that they intended to curb my freedom or stop me from doing anything that would progress me as an individual. But
Right.
because of the parents' nature of worrying and just always wanting to be there, it sort of stops you in a lot of ways. So not stifled, but yes, I couldn't grow as such. I was more protected than stifled or restricted,
Right.
I'd say.
Okay. So you were more protected. And would you say this is the case with a lot of other Indian women, especially or maybe Asian women?
Yes, I think so. Because we come from similar backgrounds where families play a very important role. Their involvement in our lives is a lot more. So definitely that natural tendency of parents to just look out for their kids, no matter how old they are, it sort of influences our everyday decisions and definitely the bigger decisions of our lives.
Okay. And to what percentage do you think this is malicious? In the sense of, or do you think it's say 100%? Because I really care for my child, so therefore, or is there a percentage of maliciousness in this whole caring for the girl child kind of thing?
Maliciousness, maybe a little bit.
Hmm.
maybe, but I don't know. I generally feel that parents care very genuinely for their children.
Right.
Um, so I don't know, maybe a little bit just because the children, not just the girl child, but even the son, they are the reputation of the family, and um, they represent the family. So anything wrong that happens with the kids or the things that they do will blotch a name on the family. So that could be one of the reasons, but nothing nothing so drastic, I think.
Right. Right. And do you think what do you think about this whole family name? Where do you think it comes from?
I think it comes from society, and just because in the Indian society or Asian society, family is considered as a unit. So you are known by your family and the other way around.
Right. And
Whereas in the West, go on.
do you think that's a healthy thing?
Yes and no. Yes,
Okay.
because it gives a sense of identity to every individual. So family is considered as a unit in our society. So they're always there to help you in your successes, to cushion the blow when it's not a very good time for you. So they're always there to sort of give you a background, a support that you would not find so much in the Western society. And no, because it puts pressure on the child in very simple terms to live
Right.
up to expectations, to have this at the back of their mind that whatever I do, I'm not the only one responsible for it, and that my actions will have consequences on the family and their
Right.
reputation.
So, would you compare the families that you've seen abroad, okay, or from your colleagues or friends or whatever there? Can you compare the English families and in the Indian families, and what do you think is better overall? Overall, I'm sure there are pros and cons.
I think overall, I prefer the Indian system of um, society where families families are considered as a whole unit. So like I mentioned earlier, it's it's like you have someone to go back to in times of need, or to share your success and failure, and to amplify your joys, or to ease in your sorrows. So I prefer the Indian system, definitely.
And can you compare the work culture?
Um, No, this is very well known that in the West there's a lot of work-life balance because you have a 5-day week, and then on the weekend you're not bothered. You're
Right.
on your own. You have time for yourself. So by that measure, I feel like the work culture here is better. It's an easier life, so to
Okay.
say. In India, where I was working, it was a lot of hard work. You achieve better things,
Right.
and you achieve to the proportion that you're willing to work, but there's just a lot of toil, and the whole mindset is work hard, and just keep working hard all your
Yeah,
life.
just keep working hard. There's no play hard
Yeah.
question. All right. All right. Okay. Let's talk about the trope of the good girl. Okay. So, do you think you're a good girl?
I think so.
Yes. Okay. And to what extent do you think it is induced? Okay. And to what extent do you think it is, it's natural?
I think a large part of it is natural. It just comes with being born as a female, I think.
Hmm. Okay.
So naturally we're more obedient, more I don't know, tamed maybe, being a
Okay.
girl.
Hmm.
Um, but a lot of it also comes from acquired traits. So, for example, if a girl shows traits of compliance and just being helpful and sensitive from a young age,
Right.
those traits are validated and encouraged by the family and society.
Right.
So she automatically picks them up and takes them to be a reward, and it just grows on and on in that positive feedback loop. So
Hmm.
it's never just one thing. I'm sure it's a combination of both, where there are acquired traits, but there are also natural traits.
Okay. But clearly, this is not the healthiest thing in the world, right? I mean, it is a lot of it is created. So, was there a point in your life, and what point was that, where you started feeling uncomfortable with that adulation of being a good girl?
Initially, not so much because I wasn't so aware of it, because that's what I was taught to do, and that's what I thought was normal and the right thing to do.
Right.
But when I started exploring more of other people and started seeing the differences between girls and boys right from their childhood, I realized how much of it is just made up for the convenience of society.
Right. Right. Okay. And do you think that most women are just in the sense of do you think they ever realize, especially Indian women, do they ever realize that there is something wrong here, or are they just do they just continue in that ignorance that is there since you're a child?
I lost the connection there for a bit.
Oh,
Could you
okay.
repeat that part?
We'll go again. Do you think most women, like, do you think they even realize that there is something wrong here, especially Indians, especially Asians, or do you think most of them just continue in that whole ignorance cycle of ignorance?
No, I don't think it's easy to identify that pattern because we're so involved in it. We're at the center of it. So it's very difficult to take an objective standpoint and to see that this is wrong on a very large scale because everyone's functioning that way in society. It's not just one or two women. So I don't
Yeah.
think it's easy for most people to see that. And that's why the whole process continues. Nobody wants to take a step out of it and to point out that this is wrong.
Okay. Now, can you, was there a system that you used, okay, to not get taken advantage of? I'm presuming that good girls generally get taken advantage of by everybody, basically, especially family. Was there a system that you can tell other women that, okay, this was what I did to realize, okay, there was this line and no more?
No, there was no system. It's just about being more aware.
Okay.
So there'll come a point in your compliance pattern where you'll feel like this is it. Now I'm being taken advantage of, and
Hmm.
and you'll question yourself. Why am I saying yes to these things? What am I gaining out of it? Is it just validation, or am I genuinely wanting to do this for the other person? And
Okay.
more often than not is just validation and just convenient to comply and to go with the flow, but
All right.
you just
All
have
right.
to you just have to identify it.
What is that line for you? So that other women don't even realize what is going on. So if they are watching this, what is that line for you so that they get that some sort of idea?
So if there's a system, I just question myself, why am I doing this?
Right.
So if I say yes to say 8 out of 10 things, I stop
Okay.
midway and I say, why am I saying yes to this? Is it
Hmm.
important? What is it
Okay.
doing to me? What is it doing to the other person? And does the other person have a choice, and he's still coming to me for all the help? So if
Interesting.
the whole pattern is repeating, then you know that there's something wrong, and that just by virtue of being helpful and compliant, you are being asked to do it repeatedly.
So basically, repeated patterns is a problem. Like something that happens once and then you're like, okay, why can't this person do it by themselves?
Yes, and because of the pattern, even the other person gets this idea that, okay, I can get my work done through this person, so why not?
Right. Right. And are you still working on the whole advantage thing, not being taken on advantage of, saying no? Is that still hard?
It's hard, yes, because yes, um it's like a rebellious thing to do. It's
Yeah.
going against the norm. So yeah, it's not always easy, but identifying when to say no, I think that's an important process, and that is getting easier.
Okay. So there is going to be a point where you're going to be 100% comfortable with it, is what you're saying.
Yes, but that's not my goal. My goal is to identify when it is time to say no, and then working towards it is a separate journey. But just to know when to stop is a whole task.
Okay. All right. So now another question. What is it like being a woman?
Um, I see it as an advantage simply because as a woman, I can express myself fully and comfortably
Right.
because um, women are assumed to be more expressive and just more loving and caring and nurturing. And
Okay.
that comes to us naturally. And that also, fortunately, fits well in society. So with
Hmm.
this, it fits well with the idea of women in society. So
Interesting.
it's liberating to be able to express what you feel.
Okay. Okay. So, what do you think as a man would like? Let's say you would not have been able to express what you felt. How would you have felt stifled? Would you have felt?
Yeah, and I'm very sure most men feel this because as humans our tendency is to express, but we're not allowed to because
Hmm,
those traits are always repressed in men from childhood. That
true.
it's not nice to cry and that um, showing love is not encouraged to them just because society doesn't agree with those things. So I'm sure
Correct.
all men get that I can't think of a word, but they feel
Hmm.
like I can't
That free.
express myself.
Okay, they don't get that. Yeah. Okay. That
They don't
right
have
of the
the
free. You can say.
they don't have the freedom to do so simply by society's norms.
Yeah. True. True. And what is it you think that men don't express? Like, what is it you think that okay, this guy wants to say this, but and I get it, but he's not being able to put it in the words or expressions, whatever.
Simple everyday things like compliments. I mean, I don't think a man will ever compliment anybody if he is not getting anything out of it.
Oh, interesting. Okay, go on.
So, so simple gestures of everyday life. I don't think men are trained or conditioned to even bother to express themselves. So they don't
Mm,
think it's necessary.
all right. And you say that women are more like allowed to sort of express. Do you think there are limitations to that? Like, is there a point where you should stop? It's a good idea to stop, but you want to something like that.
Um, No, I don't think anybody should have to stop doing what they feel. So if you want to express, you go ahead and express, whether you're a
Hmm,
man or a woman. And in fact,
right.
I would look up to a man who would express without conditions, without having to think about what the other person says.
Okay. And have you met people like that? Like, is there a percentage of men who you say, okay, there are these people exist, or is it like very very rare?
It's rare, not extremely rare, but the majority of men don't and they can't. And after a
Oh,
point, it stops. It's not their mistake because that's how they're conditioned.
all right. And any disadvantages to being a woman?
I would say maybe the physical part of it,
Hmm.
and by that I mean strength wise or just the biological limitations of not being physically strong enough to do certain things like match a well built man in combat. Again, I'm
Right.
not saying it's not possible, but generally speaking, um, that's the only disadvantage I see. But otherwise, I don't think there's anything that a woman can't do that a man can do.
Fair enough. Okay. And what does a woman want? In general, okay, what does a woman want?
That's a hard question. Uh, so I feel like we don't want to be treated as women as separate creatures. We
Right.
want to be treated as people, and there
Hmm.
shouldn't have to be women empowerment or women friendly laws or differentiation in women, even for the purpose of uplifting them, because
Right.
that is like saying that they need all the upliftment and the empowerment. Why should it be such um, a traditionally male society where to have a woman have her basic rights
Right.
would be something new. So
Mm,
statistically, men and women are equal in number in the world. So why
right.
should there be this um, minority category given to women? So we just want to
Oh,
be treated as one.
all right. So that's a general sort of this that women want. And I'd say like to be basically understood, like to be spoken to as equals, basically. Would you say that's right?
To be understood, no, because
Yeah.
it's difficult. It's difficult for men to understand women and for women to understand men, is what
Okay.
I've noticed. And
Right.
I don't think we should even try beyond a point because of the general conditioning of our minds that is different. So more than understanding, we should just accept how the other gender is.
Right. Okay. No, but there has to be some level of understanding. Like, if two people need to get along, like what? Okay, so what percentage of understanding? There has to be some level, right? You agree with that, right?
So empathy needs to be there, but that's not because the other person is a man. So I don't need to empathize with the other person as a man, but just
Okay.
as a person.
Right. Right.
So
Of course.
yeah. So to understand, so what I meant was that to understand the psychology of men, there are
Mm-hmm.
limitations to what women can do for that, and the other way
Right.
around.
Okay. All right. Yes, I do agree with that, because that is like it's really a task, and it's because I think I generally understand women, but it's been like a 10-15 years sort of
Yeah. You've studied
constant.
it. You've
Yeah, I've
studied it,
studied like scientifically and mentally, and like, I'm like, how does this work constantly? So yeah, it is really difficult. And considering that there are so many books, men, what is that, men from Mars and women from Venus, that are not entirely accurate, and whatever, and the science keeps changing. But I think still it's a big task, which I don't think everyone is up for. So yeah, you're right. You're right. It's a good point. All right. So, what do you think what have you discovered about yourself living abroad? Okay, out basically being away from family.
um, basically all the things that I'm capable of. And I didn't discover this, or I didn't anticipate that I would discover all this before I decided to come here, because I just thought it'll be a different sort of life. I would just get to see a different place, learn from a different university. But no, there's just so much that you learn to talk to yourself about, and you learn to grow within yourself. And your mind becomes more flexible.
Okay, I didn't get that last part. Can you repeat that? You learn to grow within yourself after that.
Sorry, yeah, so I was saying you learn to be more comfortable with yourself, and you grow within yourself. You learn to ask yourself the right questions.
Okay. So, other than family, okay, what is missing abroad that helps you grow? Other than family.
Mm, society, maybe. Just the
Okay.
whole um, the pressures of society and the expectations that they have from women. This
Mhm.
is not to say that women are not encouraged in the Indian society, but it's just a different kind of atmosphere here,
Yeah.
because it's more inclusive, more accepting. So a little bit of more freedom, I'd say, to just explore yourself and to grow and not be judged.
Okay. And how does society, because I as a man would not understand that. I've seen it, I've understood it, but how does society impede you? Like non-family society I'm talking about. How do they come and try and interfere with
So like family, society also has expectations out of um, women.
you?
So
Mhm.
they shouldn't do certain things, they should do certain things,
Right.
they not be seen in so and so place at so and so time with so and so person. And these values are put in us through family, but in the garb of societal norms.
Of
So that
course.
moral policing is there in the back of our minds all the time.
Yes. That is very true. The moral policing point makes sense. Yes. Okay. So to what percentage do you think women are at fault? Okay, for this kind of treatment? And okay, this and what percentage do you think women pull each other down? Two questions here. What percentage do you think women are at fault, and what percentage do you think they pull each other down?
I would say a majority of all this is because women are doing this to other women, because they have also been subjected to all of this, and
Right.
they are following a certain pattern and they are expecting the other women to follow suit. It's like in a hostel how senior students were ragged and then they want to rag the other students as well. Just to carry on the whole trend.
Right.
And because in the whole process of them growing up and them understanding the whole societal thing, they fail at some point and they think this is right. So this is what needs to be propagated.
Right. Interesting. And for patriarchy, how oblivious do you think men are? It's like, it's like a king, right? When before the French Revolution happened, the king did not understand that he was exploiting his subject. For him, it was divine right, and he's like, if I go, who's going to replace me? Which king will replace me? You see, so he did not even know that there was something called democracy. So How oblivious do you think men are, and what percentage of men are oblivious to this exploitation?
Um, I think they're very oblivious because if women can themselves be oblivious, men don't even need to get there. They have no agenda, they have no interest in this whole women being suppressed society because it works to their advantage. So they have no business trying to find out what's going wrong or if anything's going wrong or to even see that. Um, so, yeah.
Okay, so men are more oblivious than women, basically.
Basically, yeah, because they have no need to get there, to get to the grassroots level of any problem or to see if there's a problem.
Correct, correct, correct. And do you think women like this patriarchy to some extent, in the sense of, when the slaves were freed, a lot of them went back. Okay, this was after the civil war in the U.S. A lot of them went back because they really didn't know what to do. So, do you think that's a large percentage of the Indian game?
Yes, not talking about the cities, but a large percentage of general Indian women, they don't know what else to do because that's what they've seen all their lives.
Mm.
They've not seen anything beyond the four walls of their house. They've always been accompanied by family when they've gone out. So they're like caged birds. They
Right.
don't have the confidence to go out because they think they'll be eaten alive.
Mm. All
That
right.
has been
And
fed into the system since forever now.
right. So now let's assume that, okay, every woman has knows everything about the world, pretty much, and whatever there is to know. How many of them do you think will actually leave? Okay, because we've already established that women have a certain personality, okay, by birth, right? So considering this personality, considering that they are more caring and tend to care more about society, etc., how many of them do you think will actually, go and assert their independence?
I don't think very many would because they wouldn't take the trouble to. They will just
Right.
be comfortable in their own role in society. They might understand what needs to be done, but they won't take the trouble for it. A large part of them.
Fair enough. Fair. Okay, got it. So I think that was quite comprehensive. We covered a lot of issues. Is there anything you'd like to add?
No, I think you've covered a vast variety of topics.
Wow, it's